Hello and welcome to Valaction Videos. In this video, I will be talking a bit about problems. What is a problem? A good place to start is to really try to define what a problem actually is. We hear the word a lot, but like many things, without a shared understanding of the meaning, people may not be aligned in their thinking. And if we don't even agree on what the word problem means, it is hard to imagine actually solving them. So in a nutshell, I have come up with a basic definition of a problem as a gap between reality and expectations, or the should-be condition. Sounds simple enough, but if it really was that easy, then problems would all be solved in an instant. That is certainly not the case, so something else must be going on. Why are problems so hard to solve? There are lots of reasons problems are so hard to solve. The first is that ignorance is bliss. Number 1. People don't recognize problems. People just don't know they're facing a problem. Sometimes it is because they are numb to it and have grown so accustomed to the irritation that they don't even notice it anymore. Stop what you're doing right now and close your eyes. Listen carefully. When you focus, you hear things that you weren't hearing before. You might hear a slight buzz in the background of this video. The AC might be blowing. There may be a lawnmower in the distance, or music playing, or a rattle of pipes. Problems work the same way. I once managed a team, and some of their computers were pretty old. I happened by someone and watched them pause over and over as the spinning hourglass made me pay them to do nothing. We swapped out a few computers as a test, and it turns out that they were losing between 10 and 15% of their time waiting for the computer to catch up to them. Obviously, we replaced a lot of computers after that. The point is that when you are numb to a problem, you stop seeing it as something that needs fixing. There's another aspect to this reason. Sometimes problems are masked by other things. I immediately recognized the hourglass as the problem once I actually saw it. But my seat faced my team, and all I regularly saw was the back of their monitors. I just hadn't noticed the issue when I was by their desks before. I knew we could be doing better, but I didn't know all the whys yet. This problem was hidden below other things and out of sight. The point is that you have to actually see a problem to notice it. But even if you recognize something as a problem, others might not share your belief. Number 2, people don't agree the situation is a problem. In the previous example, I saw right away that slow computers were an issue. But it took some convincing to sway my boss to the idea that the slow computers were actually a problem. He saw the increase in cost for new systems as the real problem. In that case, it was just an issue of figuring out the numbers. But sometimes it is more of a difference in philosophy. Think about buying a house with your spouse. One of you may value solitude, the other may like walking down to the coffee shop. As you can imagine, each of you might see problems with a prospective house in a different light. But even if people agree on something as being a problem, they still have to agree on how big of a problem it is. Number 3, people don't agree on goals. So going back to the house example, my wife and I might both agree that long commutes are not desirable. Does anything jump out at you about that statement? If you have a problem-solving mindset, your question might be how long is long? Now, if I think 60 minutes is long and my wife thinks anything over half an hour is long, the problem of choosing the right house gets significantly harder because we are looking at it with different grading systems. Number 4, people treat symptoms. When looking at problems, what jumps out at you is symptoms, not necessarily the root cause. The classic example you hear from a lot of lean trainers is the one about someone slipping and falling in some fluid that leaked onto the floor. The symptom is the fluid. You might be inclined to wipe it up, or even figure out where it came from, or change the gasket or tighten whatever was leaking. But that doesn't deal with the underlying cause of why there was a leak in the first place. You're just slapping a Band-Aid on a symptom. When symptoms are solved instead of the root cause, the problems will come back. Number 5, people have other priorities. Sometimes you know what the issue is, and you know how to fix it, and you agree it's a problem, and you can define what solving it actually looks like. We still might just not have the time to get to it. That, in and of itself, is a big problem. If you know about problems and can't allocate the resources to fix them, that should be your top priority. Now, I'm not saying to get into ridiculous amounts of attacking minutia, There will always be more on your to-do list than you'll be able to get to. Just make sure that you are not letting significant problems fester. The bottom line is that most companies are severely lacking in how many resources they are allocating to problem solving. Number 6, people don't know how to solve the problems they are facing. There's good news on this front. By watching this video, you are already showing a commitment to dealing with this issue. But the truth is that this obstacle is closely linked to the previous one. A big reason for a lack of resources is not that you don't have enough people available, but rather you don't have enough trained and capable people available. And there's a big difference. Training people is a lot more cost-effective and quicker and easier than convincing the big bosses to hire more people. But even if you leap over all these hurdles and actually fix a problem, that still might not be enough. Number 7, solutions don't stick. More often than you would think, problems get solved with a pretty solid solution, but the team relapses and goes back to the old way of doing things. Back to the way that caused the problem in the first place. This happens when there is no solid infrastructure in place. No daily management, no KPIs or other metrics, no stand-up meetings, and no logging of problems. It is an invitation to backsliding. The truth is that most bad processes exist for a reason. People don't just say, look, we know there's a better way, but we prefer to do it the bad way. There is some factor that makes the less effective way preferable to them. At this point, it might just be habit, but in the beginning, there was a reason. It doesn't really matter what that reason is or was, though. Just knowing that there was a reason will help you be more likely to take steps to keep people from going backwards. Number 8, lack of authority. Some organizations are very dictatorial. Bosses are the only ones empowered to make decisions. That means that they are also going to have to be involved in the minutia of every change, and that slows down progress. Great organizations have a pretty clearly defined line about what people can change and what they can't change without needing to send a request up in triplicate. Loosen up on those restrictions, and you will be stunned to see what people will be willing to take on. Of course, you also have to give them the time, and you have to make sure that they're not scared to fail. Number 9, fear of mistakes. And that fear of making a mistake is a huge barrier, perhaps the biggest one. People tend to be self-preservationists. They want to make sure that they are secure in their jobs. If they are encouraged to solve problems, but get in trouble when they get it wrong, it shouldn't surprise you that they won't be willing to take on challenges. Now, it's not to say leaders just brush off failed attempts. They need to coach the person and make sure that they followed a good process and had put some thought into the change. If they used a good process that didn't work out, no problem, try again. If they didn't use a good process, they need to be taught the right way to approach problems, but it should be done in a positive, encouraging way. It is, of course, a different story if a person chronically wings it instead of following a process, but that is the exception. Now, on top of all these reasons, we still have the issue that sometimes you are just wrong about things. Maybe you do some data collection and think that the metric you're looking at is at 10.7 and you want it at 10.4. But what if you made a mistake on your data collection and is actually only at 9.3? You have a problem and you don't even know it. Or the reverse could be true as well. You might think it is 9.3 and it really is at 10.7, so you're fixing something that ain't broke and you're wasting resources. Or you might just assume that a boss will say no, or that you won't be able to get time scheduled with tooling or IT to help with your problem, so you create artificial barriers based on your perception that they are real barriers. Then there is the problem that all your levers are connected to the same guts of your business. Sometimes you fix one problem and cause another one with the fix. Maybe you change a part to make it easier to manufacture, but it causes problems for customers in the field. Or you try to reduce your delivery time, which pushes up your inventory. If you solve a problem that makes a new one, you didn't really solve the problem. You just pushed it to another location. So as you can see, there are lots of reasons why problem solving is really, really hard. We'll address the remedies of these problems in more detail in other videos, but for now, here's some homework. Go out in your work area and observe. Look for 5 things that you see as a problem. Then scrutinize each item and think about why the problem has not been solved. Use the accompanying problem barrier assessment sheet when you do your review. It's just a little tool to get you thinking about what makes problems so hard to solve. You might need to talk to the people in the area to see what they view as the barrier. In many cases, the answers are surprising. And the people doing a job, unless the barrier is the first reason I talked about, they probably have a good idea as to why they can't fix something. Leaders often have a different view on the matter, which also causes for some scrutiny. Use the tool a few times and see if any specific issues keep repeating. And keep in mind that the 5-problem homework requirement is just for a first pass. This is a tool that you can keep using to help you improve problem solving in your organization. And while I probably don't need to say this, try to do something about the biggest barriers. Keep logging the reasons on the form whenever you come across a new problem. Then remove the barriers until the only thing that comes up is resources, and then get more resources. Okay, that's all on this topic. Good luck, and keep after those problems.